welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. Today I'm on the Outer Hebrides of the British Isles, and yeah, this is really one of the remote places of Scotland. And here the isle is called Isle of Hearach, and behind me is the town of Tarbert. And today we're looking at the Isle of Hearach distillery. Let me tell you a bit about the background about the distillery. It started off with a man named Anderson Bakewell. His nickname was Burr, so I'm gonna call him Burr. And he moved to the island, or an island next to here, during the 60s. And he was an American, but he kind of liked the island, and he really saw it, it was a bit of a downfall going on here. During the 60s and probably also the 70s, there was a decline of about 50% of the population, so people were leaving. The jobs here weren't good, and so what he then later did, he wanted to do something about that. He actually got involved and wanted to start a distillery. So it should be a distillery that is sustainable, as usually distilleries are, because if you invest into a distillery, you have to do it long term, because you don't get any profits out right away. So so he went around and he got investments for about 8 years and got investors and the government involved in permits and planning and everything. And in 2015, they actually did open the distillery, started production, and they actually did start with gin. And in 2016, they started off with their whiskey production, as the bigger stills, a bit longer to commission and everything and to run in. And so that was the story behind that. They started off with 10 employees, and now they are above 40, and they're all locally employed. And it's really a nice, they call themselves a social distillery, which is really kind of a nice idea, that everybody's just coming together and distilling whiskey, and everything is done pretty much under one roof. And so this is the story about the distillery, and now let's have a look and find out how the whiskey is made. Here is the mash tun, and it has a capacity of 1.2 tons of barley grist, and they use about 6,000 liters of what's coming off here. They do 3 waters, 2 of them they use, 1 of them is recycling, so it's fairly normal. What they do is, in terms of, they have barley grist, and it is a barley that has a medium peatiness to it. So it has about 13 to 15 ppm, and that is not as common, but on the island whiskies it's fairly common. So the medium peated whiskies, I would say, come from the islands, and as this is an Hebridean island distillery, it's nice to have such a medium peated malt going on here. So what they also do is they have a pretty slow raking, and other turnings are also pretty in the direction of a clear wort. And the clear wort is, as it says, it's more clear, it's not as cloudy, and that has really a lot of impact of how it is then fermented. So let's head on and show how that stuff is now fermented. They're actually doing their fermentation in 8 wash bags, and they are all made of Oregon pine, or as you call it, Douglas fir. And what they actually do want to have, they want to have a really orchard fruit character. They want to create these flavors. Sometimes they do have a little bit of a grassy flavor in there, and also a little bit of a tropical fruit in there. They do have a variation between durations between the week ones and the ones over the weekend. So they have some of them are 3 days and some of them are 5 days fermentation. So there's a bit of variation there. And so what you end up is you still have the peat in there, and it doesn't go away, and you have a lot of orchard fruits in there that are being created through the fermentation. Now then it's off into the distillation. Behind me is the wash still, and we're coming in with a beer that is really a bit grassy, a lot fruity, orchard fruits, and a little bit of a tropical fruit note in it. And the wash still is filled with 6,000 liters of volume and distilled pretty fast. If you look at the shape, it's pretty normal. That's what the people here say. I would say a little bit taller than normal, but still pretty normal. Doesn't have a constriction or doesn't have any reflux bowl, so really normal and fast distillation. That's what you want in the wash still. The wash still is not that important for the flavor, although it dissipates a lot of the peat already. The spirit still also dissipates peat, but is much more responsible for the flavors, as you have the cutting points, the pace in which you distill, and the shape of the still. The still is 3,500 liters in filling volume, and also very normal shape, maybe a little bit taller than normal. And they are stilling to really a fine and fruity and sweet spirit. That's what they're actually looking for, a sweet spirit with also orchard fruits and fruitiness. What you can see at the still is that you do have a water cooling system around the line arm, but it's unfortunately, or not unfortunately, they actually haven't used it yet. So they could actually change the spirit in a whole different way if they put on the water cooling, have a lot more reflux and even more finer and refined distillates. So, but in terms of what they make, they're pretty satisfied, and they're already producing for about 6 years, and that is, yeah, they have already kind of got into one kind of spirit that is really sweet, what they tell me. Yeah, and let's move on to the warehouse and have a look how old the whiskey already is and how matured it is. So I'm standing here in one of the 3 warehouses, and yeah, the warehouses are not yet that filled. They have already filled one of the warehouses, and now they've got 3 of them. They can now switch around a bit, and yeah, but they still got plenty of space, which is good, because building a new warehouse around here takes quite some time, because you have to import all the workers and all the materials, so it takes quite some time to build a warehouse at the end of the world. Yeah, behind me you see their private cask program. So when they started the distillery, you could buy a cask, and then you got like bourbon barrel filled with their new make. You got your name on it, you got the number, and you got the year on it, and that was your cask then. And now they are stored here because there are so many. They used to have them at the distillery, but there are too many private casks now, so they got their little site here in one of the warehouses, and you can have you can still see the casks here. They will be filled, I don't know, within the next 5, maybe 10 years, but we don't know that. I think there were some terms of condition with that. If you look at their normal warehousing, they're not just private casks, they're normal casks from the distillery, and they are mainly bourbon casks, but you see a lot of sherry casks as well. That is a mixture between Oloroso sherry and also Fino sherry. Fino is the one that is drier and not as sweet. It's not been used as much, so it's a bit, yeah, the thing of the Isle of Harris distillery. So I'm really excited about how the Fino is going to turn out. So yeah, we don't know yet what will come out as the first one, but now that you know what cask they have, you can speculate a little bit. Yeah, in terms of maturation, this here is kind of the perfect place for maturation. You have really mild winters with 8 degrees Celsius, and sometimes 10, sometimes 6, so it barely gets to freezing temperature. And the summer, depending on who you ask, is around 18, some people say 16, so around 16, 18 is a typical summer day. So it's not really that hot in summer. And what that gives you is that the casks, when they heat up and when they cool down, they actually work. And when you have a lot of difference, then you have a lot of additive maturation from the cask. Additive means that you get flavors from the cask into the whiskey. So this is happening here not so much. You still get enough additive maturation, but you get a lot of reductive maturation. That happens just over time. Over time you get the reductive maturation, and that is why the Scotch whiskey is what Scotch whiskey is as on 10 years plus. You can't really have that in other climates. So this is why you have Scotch whiskey, because of a very, very humid and very mild climate where the temperature differences are not so high. So perfect. Isle of Harris, is a perfect place. We are near the Loch na Sheed, and that is Loch na Sheer, and that is really nice place to store whiskey. I'm not quite sure if I will get any whiskey because nothing has been released yet. So let's have a look what I will get in the interview. So I'm sitting here with Shona McLeod.
Yes.
and you are here like really a local. You were born and raised on the island, and you started already at 2014. So like really the start of at the beginning. So thank you very much for showing us around, and lovely experience around here.
That's great, yeah.
Yeah. So you are the guest manager?
I am the guest services manager. That's been my job for the last 8 years. But recently I've joined the sort of blending world, so I'm working more with the production team and training to be the distillery blender.
That is really, really interesting. So how is it, how do you become that? How do you learn that, or how does that start?
I suppose it starts with a natural kind of ability to be able to pick up certain smells in the spirits. Our flavour consultant Gordon Steele has been teaching us for many years on the gin front, so we were tested in the very early days for our sensory abilities. Some of us passed and some didn't, so we've all been involved in it at some point. And now as we get closer to releasing the Hearach, we're working much more closely with the new mix spirit as well as the gin.
Okay, yeah, okay. So that is really a very nice experience. So you are training as in getting the flavors right. And is there a lot of difference between gin and whiskey, or? Flavor-wise,
yes, yeah. So
I mean, or work-wise?
Yeah, so there's a flavour spectrum, obviously, that can cover whiskey, and a separate one for gin. The similarity is you're looking for certain flavour categories within both spirits, but they are very different.
Okay, and you started off with the gin, and then you got into whiskey.
Yeah.
So how was that? Is whiskey now like, is it much weaker, or how do you see it?
Whiskey was very new to me. I didn't drink whiskey. I was very comfortable with gin and was familiar with it, so that was easier for me.
Okay.
But it's very exciting learning about the whiskey, and obviously our own spirit is. We make one spirit at the moment, one new mix spirit, so it's in order for it to be consistent, we're looking for the same flavour profiles every week, so you soon become very familiar with it, and it's very natural then to pick up what you need.
So your whiskey is pretty old already. Like, is it like, it's like 6 years old?
Our oldest casks are about 6.5 years old.
So,
yeah.
But you didn't bring anything out yet. So,
Not yet.
Are you waiting for 10, or how is that?
No, we're just waiting till the time's right, really. So we've been very lucky with the success of the gin that we haven't had to release our dram too early.
Yeah, the gin is really going well.
Yeah.
So no whiskey yet. So what are we having today?
So what we have in front of us here is our new mix spirit. This was taken off the still about 3 or 4 days ago.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's full strength. It's
full strength.
Full strength, yeah. So it's about 69%.
Well, okay. So a lot of breathing then.
A lot of breathing, and obviously we can't refer to it as whiskey until it's been in a cask for over 3 years. 3 years and a day.
It's new make.
So it's new make, yeah. Okay, do you want to?
I've had quite some new make, but it's always a bit of a. It's not the easiest part.
Brace yourself before you try it.
Oh yeah, as you said, it has that sweet touch to it, almost like a little bit of a. For me, it has pear definitely, and some. It's that sweet roundness, like it sounds strange, but is there something like a pear candy?
Yeah, I think what you get is honeycomb.
Honeycomb,
yeah.
Yeah. That's what I confused with the candy. Yeah, honey.
Yeah, honey. Yeah. Definitely honeycomb. A little bit of bubblegum in there, and the peat initially is pretty light, but once you taste it on your palate, the peat becomes
in the smell, the peat is very hidden. It's intriguing. Like you have a little bit of that dry phenolic in there, but just it could be something else as well. So
what else do you find in there?
You see, as you said, grassy. I think it has more like at the initial point. It has a little bit of an earthy tone to it, but then you're just overwhelmed with the apple, pears, orchard, sweetness. Oh, I like it.
We very often find a little bit of tropical fruit in there, but also stewed apples or applesauce, cooked apples. Sometimes crisp, fresh pears as well.
Yeah, it's nice. Also a bit hard to, because if you get into
It's
deep,
full
it's
strength,
definitely
yeah.
alcohol.
When we do our sensory work every week, we reduce it down to 20% so that we
Oh, okay.
don't
It's less
fatigue
dangerous.
our senses too much.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah, but if you have the right distance, it's very lovely, sweet orchard, and yeah, smidges of everything in there.
And the florals, I explained to you earlier, because obviously your sensory memory comes into play here. So you might have a memory of some type of florals that I wouldn't have because of where you were brought up. So we kind of think of them as macher flowers, and macher is the land next to the beaches here, and you get sort of little spring meadow flowers growing there. Clover.
Yeah.
Do you have clover in Germany?
Oh yeah, we do.
Clover is something I find always in our new mix spirit.
Yeah, sensory
White
is a
clover,
lot
red
of
clover.
depends also a lot of on experience. If you pick something up in the production, you can always find it in here.
Yeah.
That's always really cool when you have something very distinctive in the production and you find it in the new make or in the whiskey even.
It's fascinating, really. I think I had a misconception with whiskey that the flavour didn't really appear until after it's matured. But obviously, I've learned through my job that the flavour is occurring all the way through from the very beginning of production to the maturation all the way through.
I would say maturation. Some people say 70%, some say 60%, even some say 50%. Depends on the cask, really. But there's still
But when
much
you
going on.
try this, you can then really appreciate that.
Yeah,
So much flavour is in there already in the spirit that you fill your casks with.
Yes, there's so much going on with fermentation, distillation, and the spirit distillation is very, very dependent. I like it. Yeah,
And,
let's have a look.
Yeah. So what are you getting now? Lots of things. An explosion of flavour.
Warm, sweet.
A little spice.
Now I get this feeling that you have with the stewed apple or stewed pear. And a maltiness. Get a little bit of a porridge feeling going on.
Yeah.
A little bit of a porridge feeling. But I don't know if that porridge has been on the stove for a bit too long. But I like it. It's
a little like a warm malt drink as well. Yeah.
You have really, when you feel the peat, then you get a good whiff from the mash tun. You have a lot in there, and then here in the glass and in the flavor as well, it's just lightly. It's just a smidge of it. It's really not overwhelming. So the pears, the fruitiness, and maltiness, and all these other stuff is more dominant than the peat. The peat is really a nuance in it, but it's lovely. It's
but
nice.
It's kind of long lasting on the palate, isn't it? It keeps going for a little while. Yeah. And,
I like it. Oh, that is nice. But yeah, let's talk about the distillery. It's lovely. I just thought, you're going to the Outer Hebrides. There's just going to be a small hut, a few stills in there, and that's it. It's a lovely building here, a lovely operation you have here.
Yeah, I mean, it was purpose built for obviously distilling amazing spirits, world-class spirits, but also as a visitor centre. We live in a tourism area here, so as you can see around the village today, it's very quiet because it's November. But from March to October, we have a busy tourist season. So, we have a dual purpose here to be a tourism destination as well as a producer of spirits.
It's a lovely tasting room with is that like, what do you call it, a flavour abacus?
This is our flavour abacus.
Okay.
Or a tweed abacus. So each of the different tweed bobbins are reflecting different flavours that appear during whiskey production.
Okay. And this is where the tour starts. And
our tour starts in here. So we start with a dram and Harris. We don't finish with one like many other distilleries do.
Okay.
And,
good idea.
This room's designed to feel like the inside of a cask. So as you can see, the walls are charred like a bourbon cask would be, or toasted like a sherry cask would be, and we've got a natural, the natural Harris sunlight coming through the skylight there. And this is Harris rock, so this was quarried in South Harris. It's called the North site.
Yeah, I do like what you have on tour. You have like the botanicals. Are the tours like separate? You go gin tour and you go whiskey tour? Or
Well,
is that combined?
it's mainly a whiskey tour because we're first and foremost a whiskey distillery that makes gin. So we do have an element of the tour that focuses on the gin and the botanicals and the bottle design and everything about our gin, but the majority of the tour is about whiskey.
Okay. Can you just come here and do a tour, or do you have to pre-book, or how does it work?
Pre-booking, absolutely, yeah. Because as you can see in our flavour room here, we're quite limited numbers-wise, so we can only take 12 maximum in here. Okay. So our tours were always designed from day one to be intimate, small groups. It's just a really nice experience then, and the group get to know each other in the flavour room here before they move on through the rest of the tour. Okay, very nice. So I do love it. It's nice. So you do get a lot of tourists around here. So how is the best way to reach you? Through our website or through our just phoning up to book a tour? Okay, no, I mean, how do you reach you the distillery? Like, how do you travel here? Yeah, so by ferry from Skye to Tarbert, which our ferry terminals just outside. Or you can also travel from further north in Scotland and Ullapool across to Stornoway, which is in the island. Is that the way you came? And then you drive down 45 minutes to Tarbert. Okay. You can fly to Stornoway as well from Inverness, you have an airport. I'll try the airport tomorrow for going home, but but it's good. It has like 3 runways, so you can land at pretty much any wind, no side wind. Wind doesn't affect the flights at all, really, but wind affects the ferries pretty much all the time. Yeah, I've seen that. Okay, so in summer it's really pretty warm and nice. Well, we're in the northwest of Scotland, of course, so we don't get very hot temperatures here, but nor do we get very cold ones in the winter either. We get very little snow lying because we're on coastal. So a very warm day for us in the summer might be 18 to 20 degrees. And a really good summer's day. Okay, so you have to like the island climate. But, you know, the winter is maybe 10 degrees. So we don't have, that's very good for maturation though. We don't have really high temperatures and really low temperatures. So we're pretty confident that our warehouse is in a good spot for maturing the Hearach. Definitely. Oh yeah, so definitely come around here. And yeah, thank you very much for showing us around and telling us so many information. It's lovely to meet you. Yeah, it was lovely. So, and yeah, thank you very much for watching. And if you found this video interesting, then please feel free to share it with your friends and see you next time.